Hello class, this lesson is on converting percents to fractions and decimals. So please make sure you pause on occasion and take notes. What is percent and what does it mean? Well, we have to know what this word is. So what is percent? This word percent, per, cent. We've learned that cent stands for 100 because you know there's 100 cents in a dollar, and there's 100 years in a century. So cent means 100. Percent means every, or out of, let's say out of 100. So percent means out of 100. Make sure you are writing this down. This is the definition of percent. So it means out of 100, and we can write it like that, or we can write it as a fraction. We can say out of 100. Okay, a number out of 100. Like on a test, when you get a grade, it's a percent. It's out of 100. Okay, next slide. Remember, please write this down. When converting fractions to decimals, we divide. So we have to divide 4 divided by 5, and we know 4 is our dividend, and it goes in the house. We add our decimal, and we know that that's 8/10. Okay. When we convert decimals to fractions, we write what we say. So here's an example. This is not 7.6, but rather 7 and 6/10. Please make sure you're writing this down. Next slide. Here we're converting decimals to percents. Here's an example. You can also pause and try it on your own first before you listen to me do it. So if we're converting decimals to percents, we're just moving the decimal over 2 places, right? So instead of saying 45 hundredths, this is now 45%. So if you moved this decimal place over 2 places, obviously there's no number here, so we have to add a 0. So this, instead of saying 6 and 7/10, if we have it as a percent, it is 670%. Okay, and if we have 9 here, we know the decimal comes after the number, and if we move it over 2 decimal places, we have to add 2 zeros, and this turns into 900%. Please make sure you re-watch the section if you need to. So the rule for converting decimals to percents is you need to move the decimal place over 2 places to the right. Okay, here's the next slide. For converting fractions to percents, you need to divide first. You need to make sure you turn it into a decimal, and we know that 4/5 is the same as saying 8/10. And so if we move this decimal 2 places, this is now, boom, boom, 80%. So 8/10 is also equal to 80%. Okay, try this one on your own. If we have 7/8, I don't know what that is as a decimal, so I'm going to have to divide. So we put the 7 in the house, put our decimal places, put our decimal. 8 does not go into 7. 8 goes into 70 8 times, and that's 64. Okay, we subtract, we borrow. 10 minus 4 is 6. Bring down our 0, that's 60. 8 goes into 60, let's see, not 8 times, but 7 times. So we have 0.87, and 8 times 7 is 56. You can subtract, and that's 4. Oh. Okay, so we have 7/8 is the same as saying 87 hundredths, and that's same as saying 87%. Okay, please make sure you are writing this down. Here's the next slide. Converting percents to decimals. So we're working backwards now. So instead of moving our decimal over to the right, we're moving it back over to the left. Okay, so this 16%, our decimal was here. It now goes back 2 decimal places. So this is equal to, they are equivalent, 16 hundredths. Okay, this next slide, this next example, instead of saying 800%, we need to move the decimal place over 2 places, so that is equal to 8. So we move it over here. 1, 2, and this is 8. Just regular 8. And you can even leave the decimal there and we can say 8.0. Okay, this next one, we have our decimal here. We need to move it, remember, to the left. So we move it 1, 2, and we don't have a number here, so we need to add a 0. And so this is equal to 56 thousandths. Okay, here we go. Let's move on to the next slide. If we're converting percents to fractions, we need to just make it out of 100, right? So if we have 5%, that's like saying 5 out of 100, right? And we can always simplify. If we can simplify, we need to. So we can divide by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So 5% is the same as saying 1 over 20. Okay? So percent, remember, it means out of 100. So 800 out of 100. So we can just divide. We cancel our zeros. 2 for 2. 8 over 1, that's equal to 8. And if you need to rewatch this part, make sure you are rewatching. Okay? So we have 5 6/10 out of 100. That might look a little funny to you. So we're just dividing, right? So we can't have a decimal here. So we can move it over by multiplying by 10. So for multiplying by 10, the top becomes 56, and we add a 0 to our denominator. Okay? So we're adding a 0, so this becomes 1,000. 56 over 1,000. And we can divide again. So we can divide, let's say, by 2. Our denominator becomes 500. Our numerator becomes, let's see, 56 divided by 2 is 28. 28. And it looks like we can simplify again. So let's simplify again. We can divide, let's say, again by 2. So our denominator is 250. Our numerator is 14. And it looks like we can divide again. So let's divide again. This becomes 125. Our numerator becomes 7. And it looks like that might be it. All right? So 5 6/10% is the same as saying 7 over 125. Okay? Make sure you need to, if you need to rewatch it, make sure you do. Here's your homework. Convert the following into a percent and convert the following percents into decimals and fractions. Make sure you do both, please. And I will see you either Friday or Monday. So if we have a snow day, I'll see you Monday. Have a good one.